Well, good morning, everybody. How are you all doing? Sam here, United People's TV. It is not Monday to Friday. It's Saturday. So it's an extra show because of the news that developed last night from the Times around Jim Ratcliffe closing in on a Manchester United takeover. We've been waiting for an update. I wouldn't say patiently. I don't actually know. That's a lie. We have been waiting patiently. The update came. It might not be what all of you want to hear, but this is the news that is happening. So we will discuss it here this morning as a community. I can tell by the chat in the comments. It's going to be an interesting and spicy stream. So I suppose I've got to prepare myself for that. And yeah, that was always going to happen if INEOS took the lead, which is what we are being told. Now, what I would say to begin this conversation is still we're in the area of speculation. But if you're looking at how the stories have developed this week, everything's slowly been pointing towards it. Who was it first? Martin Lipton at The Sun was mentioning about INEOS being the preferred party. And then you heard some stories that were emanating from France in the Nice region. And then you're like, well, of course, they're going to be pro-Ratcliffe. Now we're going to run through what is being said from the Times. And also, Mike Keegan suggesting that the Qataris aren't done yet, that there might be another bid towards the end. What's going on there? Look, I'm going to try and explain it all to you this morning, as I do every single morning on the live show. Who's joining in? Let's have a look. Charlie, you're there. Box, good morning to you. Craig Cooper on Facebook. Viva Ronaldo. Haven't seen your name. Ahmad, you're there. Good morning to you. Josh, you're here as always. Carl, you're there. And I thought you were in Scotland. Get back to the hot tub. Who else we got? Ruben, Malps, Lord, don't know your second name. Andrew Wright. Sorry about that. Good morning to everyone. Let me pull up this thing so I don't miss anybody's interaction. That's a really horrible noise. I need to mute my mic when I need to try and mute my mic when I cough. Remember that from now on. Sorry about that. Oh, look at that. Wow. Jay, what? It's Saturday. To be fair, it's a Saturday stream and these never come around. So that one there. Big up to you, Jay, man. Love this community. Really do. But look, let me run through this article. I've highlighted key points, and then we can discuss it here this morning. I'll try and interact, as always, with the comments and what you are saying about it. Let's go in, and let's discuss the news. Jim Ratcliffe is closing in on a Manchester United takeover. That's come from Matt Lawton and Matt Dickinson from the Times yesterday. So it was a big update. And this is what he says. So Jim Ratcliffe has moved a significant step closer to securing Manchester United. And he says there that sources close to the deal have indicated that the Glazers and the Rain Group are now willing to enter final talks with Ratcliffe. As Sunday Times revealed last month, Ratcliffe moved ahead of Sheikh Jassim. Insiders believe that the valuation and Ratcliffe's willingness to agree a deal that enables Joel and Abraham Glazer to retain a 20% stake in the club has proved a significant factor. So there's some important parts there, right? Here, we're talking about final talks now. That's something I've said already quite a few times, and I will reiterate. When it comes to the structure of these deals, if it was the Qatari bid versus the INEOS and Ratcliffe bid, the Ratcliffe bid is significantly more complicated because the Qatari bid would just be straight buying you out, everybody's gone, quite a simple transaction. Whereas what it's looking like, what would happen if the INEOS bid was successful is, I don't know how you structure that. I know how you structure it in my head, but I mean from a legal perspective of changing the share structure, taking the control away from the Glazers whilst they still retain their stake. How do you abolish that dual share structure system? Do you just get rid of it completely? What have you... For me, it strikes me as a far more complicated deal to do. And for a lot of people, myself included, when news of this came out, right, the idea that Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS would enable the Glazers to stay, I hated it. I hated the idea of it. And I want to speak about that bit in particular a little bit later in the show. because I want to say a few things on that, but I want to run through this article first, and also I want to run through Mike Keegan's article about his point of view, because remember that Mike Keegan is coming from the Qatari side. That's where his information is. So it'll be interesting to see what he's saying about the situation. Sources close to the Qataris believe they remain part of the process, and it could yet be that they respond with an 11th hour bid that forces the Glazers to reconsider. Now, that part there is also reiterated by Mike Keegan. And there's something not that one. There's something I want to say about this, right? At this moment in time, the Qatari bid feels like a bit of hot air. Whenever, let me explain that before you start going crazy down here. The reason I'm saying that is because when the Qataris came in first of all, and Mike Keegan broke the story about a full takeover from Qatar, you felt, a lot of people felt that, I mean, financially, there's no chance of anybody competing with that. And that's what I immediately at that point just sort of felt I'm going to have to start getting my head around the idea of Man United having links to a state. And I tried to get my head around that. But the INEOS bid at this moment, everyone's suggesting this. That the INEOS has actually bid more than the Qataris. Now that is speculation. But we're now we're hearing about an 11th hour bid. Like, here you go, man. If you really can blow everyone out the water, now's the time. Now is the time, and I don't know why you've waited this long to do it. Going down here, and there's a funny comment there, which I'm going to whip this one out. Scott, you're so Sir Jim, it makes me ill. I've made this abundantly clear, right? There are pros and cons to both of these, and I can see it in the comments. I've seen it everyone else. Like, there is not a perfect deal here, right? At all. It doesn't exist. There are major problems and questions with both bids. So I can't for the life of me understand anybody who's just so pro one side that they can't look at the other with any sort of merit. It's a bit weird. Quite a lot of it's a bit weird. I'll be totally honest. Jonathan, you're saying if we don't get Qatar, they will just buy another Prem team, leaving us even weaker. I think it's crazy that people want INEOS. And there's going to be so many people that will say the same thing on the opposite side. This is why I've tried to... It's not that I've sat on the fence, but I've been able to see and understand the merits of both throughout this whole process and the problems of both. And trust me, there are problems of both. Let me see what you're saying down there. Echo, you're saying, why would you even bid higher when it's already overvalued? If INEOS have actually bid more and the Qataris don't win, then this whole idea of the Qataris being able to blow everyone out the water to come into Manchester United to dominate the Premier League. Really? You're going to get outbid by Ratcliffe and INEOS? Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Right. There's more down here. There you go. The continuation of the article is saying there has been minimal contact between the Rain Group and the Qatari since those third and final offers. And I've been speaking with my good mate Ben Jacobs, and he's just been saying the same thing as this whole time as well. There has been quite a severe lack of contact in these last 3 weeks since those third offers went in. It's all gone a bit quiet on the Western Front. John Garrett talking rubbish. I tell you what, there's so many vociferously angry people here. Paul, sorry, Sam, you've lost me now. I tell you what, I might just ignore the chat for a little bit because people are heated around this. Heated, angry. If you do not agree with me, I'm going to start punching you in the face. That's what so many people are doing around this situation. Really. It's Fuck, I just want to support my football club. I just want to talk about. I want to talk about Wolves. I want to talk about Raphael Varane coming back. Shit. Malps, yeah, fans are concerned, and I'm concerned. And people throwing mad accusations at me. It fucks me off. Really does. Really, really does. My God. We've all been dragged into something that we never thought we'd be dragged into here. That part there. Now, I remember when this happened at the time, the collapse of the Credit Suisse, that whole banking crisis. I'd say the whole banking crisis. It's been going on for a long time. The Times are suggesting that the collapse of Credit Suisse and the QIA's involvement in that, and also Sheikh Jassim's, has kind of undermined it. That was when the Credit Suisse, it was bailed out as a huge, huge issue, which kind of had a ripple effect inside the banking market. And apparently, it had a direct effect on the strength of the Qatari bid. Let's see what else is being said down here. Initially, Ratcliffe, let's go up here. Initially, Ratcliffe had indicated a desire to purchase 69%, but it became increasingly apparent, and this is the crux of all. Imagine me saying this. The crux of all Manchester United's problems. I don't even think I can say the Glazers anymore. I think we can just confidently and completely say it's Avram and Joel Glazer. The other four Glazers, they just want their money, and they just want to take their money and run, which is all we want to see from all the Glazers. Just take your money and get out. But Avram and Joel have dug their claws in, and they're not leaving. Now, I remember saying it at the time. I thought it was a smart move by Ratcliffe and INEOS to figure out a way in which they could keep the Glazers in and then buying the club. It was a smart thing to do. I thought it was a bit underhand as far as fans are concerned, and it didn't sit right with me. And if I'm talking hypotheticals here, if INEOS are successful, I would have so many more questions up front about the structure of how that would work than I would with the Qataris. Because it's, as I said, it's a simpler transaction. The Qataris is cash, and they are the only people who are ever going to use cash, is a state. Anybody else would use financing. I would have so many more questions about the INEOS structure. Like, how does it work? I don't want to talk about ifs and hypotheticals. I want obligations, guarantees. Because we're hearing, they might be gone within 3 years. And then I'm like, what do you mean might be gone within 3 years? So there's still so many more things to ask and discuss. And I will, look, right, what I want to say here, I'm a United fan, all right? Spoiler. I'm a United fan. I want my club to be the best club in the world again. We need new owners to do that. Who are the right new owners? It's a debate we've been having for months and months and months. Neither. I wouldn't. If the Qataris took over, I would. Oh, jeez. Why am I going round in circles with this? I don't really. Well, it's kind of, we all are going round in circles, aren't we? I'm not going to say anything I haven't already said before. Peter, you're saying, what is weird, Sam, is United fans changing their stance on Ratcliffe after waving full sale only banners and Glazers out. The full sale only, of course, related to getting rid of the Glazers. And that's the crux of why this Ratcliffe deal just doesn't sit with anybody, because the Glazers would retain a presence at the club, right? They wouldn't retain control, I don't think, and we'll speak about that in a little bit. But they would still be there. Nobody wants that. Garlic Bread Man, I don't know how people find it reasonable to criticize someone for their preferred bidder here. Qatar didn't get the club because they didn't pay enough. Simple as that. Let's not turn on each other over a business transaction. I wouldn't say that. I don't know, but thank you very much for the super chat, dude, by the way. And same for you, Peter. I don't know whether fans are turning on each other. That's probably the wrong way to describe it, but it's toxic's the wrong word. And I think you left a comment earlier saying that people just want United to be the best that it could possibly be. And if you're looking at how football has gone in the last 10 years, a lot of it points towards that. Points towards the Qataris because of what's happened at City, because of what's happened at PSG, because of what will happen at Newcastle, because I don't know, maybe another club would be sold at some point in the future. This is a thing that always goes round in my head. Always goes round in my head. And I'm sorry. Fucking hell, who am I kidding? Am I sorry? There is part of me in there that would just always be against state ownership. There will always be a little part of me will always be against that because of what I have grown up with being a United fan and what I have witnessed since 2008. And no, I don't need to apologize about that. It's just what has happened to football. So there will always be that little niggle and concern and question about it. But I also hate the Glazers with every fiber of my soul. And here you see the clashing of it's just a clash. There is no damn good scenario here. Well, I'm saying that the good scenario is we're going to get new owners. Yeah, Game of Beans. I know Chelsea started it in 2003. We've spoken about that, but if you can't understand as a United fan why there are so many United fans who are just intrinsically against the concept of having any links to a Qatari state, then you really do not understand what has happened to Manchester United in the last 20 years because of everything that's happened in the landscape of Manchester, the Premier League, and it's all been driven by that state ownership. If you don't understand that, then you're just not looking. And I trust me, I know that there are people that you can. Fucking hell. This whole thing, man. This whole thing. It's crazy. It really is crazy, isn't it? Whatever happened to just watching a game of footy? Welcome to the Billionaires Playground. If we want to point out people where our anger should be pointed towards, it's the Premier League. They are the ones that enabled this Billionaires Playground. They created the conditions for this. Just that football fans, United fans now, we're having to deal with it. And it's causing divisions. It's definitely causing divisions. Maybe not a split. I did a poll yesterday, and to be fair to all you guys and girls down here, you were like 90-10 towards Qatar. There is a split. No, maybe not a split. A division, sorry. Certainly division. Jammy Jam Bars. Jammy Jam Jars. That's a really good name. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for super chat. What are you saying? If Jim brings the right people / players in, that's enough for me. I understand why people want Qatar, but find United fans anger at those who want Jim odd. It's because I suppose it's because people are so one-minded. And I don't mean that in a horrible way. Just they've got their vision of where United is and where United should be, and they know, well, in their eyes, they look at what's happened at City, and they go, "I want that to happen at United." And from a footballing perspective, they've won 4 out of the last 5. They're looking likely to win the Champions League this year. Yeah, and they've also got 115 FFP charges against them, something like that. Don't know. Can't remember how many it was. Jason, Sam, didn't you grow up with the Glazers destroying your club and your beautiful little Disney character is keeping that? Dude, is that still being held against me? I said at the very start, the very, very start, that the idea of a man who was born 10 miles from Old Trafford growing up to become Britain's richest man, and then buying Manchester United and taking us back to the glory. Yeah, that is a Disney situation. But that name got parked as soon as that whole 20% with the Glazers situation came around. So don't use that against me. Jesus. My word. People are trying it. People really are trying it. A couple more super chats before we move on. Jay, how you doing, buddy? Sam, do you think this is just another way of the Glazers getting more money from Qatar? Hey, look, you can't rule that out. It could be another power play. And I'm going to move on to Mike Keegan's article in a second. Kill Robinson, you're saying, I think INEOS will set up a streaming service. I don't know what you mean by that, dude. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that. Glenny boy, thank you, dude. You're saying it feels a bit like the last 3 weekends. They said Sir Jim will be chosen next week unless Qatar up their bid next week never comes. Is it a bluff? Like, no matter, I never ever expected INEOS to beat the Qatari bid financially. Never. I think any supporter who would prefer an INEOS takeover and a Ratcliffe takeover, I don't think any of you would have expected or hoped that INEOS would actually financially offer a better deal than the Qataris. And maybe that won't be the case. Maybe there is going to be that 11th hour bid, and that's what we're speaking about next. Dean, what are you saying, sir? Thank you very much, dude. You're saying people seem to be forgetting if the debt is gone and moved off United, we should be able to get top players in without huge cash injection and proper management. We're a massive club on our own. Now, Dean, one second here. I'll pull this up. I was going to speak about this a little bit later, but what Dean says there is true. All right. We have not won the Premier League since 2013. Right. We have not won the Champions League since 2008. Yet, we still have the 4th biggest revenue in world football. City, who have cooked the shit out of their books, you can scrap them from the number 1 position. The only clubs ahead of us are Real Madrid and Liverpool. The only clubs in the entire world who make bigger revenues than Manchester United last year were Real Madrid and Liverpool. And we've not won the league in a decade. We've not won the Champions League in 15 years. We do not need, and the same that whether it's a Qatari takeover, whether it's an INEOS takeover, we don't need a sugar daddy takeover coming in and just spunking 500 mil. All of a sudden, FFP rules all out the way. We do not need to do that. We never have. And that is why it's slightly different at United. There's another couple of super chats here. GV, this channel is a joke. Thank you very much, dude. Appreciate your support. Appreciate your support. Smitty, thank you, man. You're saying it's a smoke screen to get 7 billion out of Qatar. Well, if Qatar really wants Manchester United, then we are going to see in the next few days a big old bid coming in. Ahmad, you're saying SJR wants to keep on the Glazers more than enough for 90% of the fan base to not want him near the club. And I understand that. And there is a question that I want to ask you about in a little bit. Once I get through it, there's so many comments coming in. And this is what I mean, man. It's I'd like to make these shows as interactive as I possibly can. I cannot tell you how many comments fly in. Sometimes I read them, sometimes I don't. I try to get as involved as I can, but sometimes you get dragged into arguments, and I suppose that's why you enjoy the show, because it is truly, genuinely interactive. I haven't even read through the other article yet. Sigmund, how you doing, buddy? I understand the want for Qatar. However, I think this is damage done by 18 years of Glazonomics. We are big enough to compete. I don't doubt that we're big enough to compete. I don't doubt that whatsoever. Jason, you call people who don't want the Glazers in power even 1% single-minded, yet what do you call the people who hate the Glazers but start twerking for them because Sir Jim Glazer keeps... I tried to read the comment there, but I've honestly not really sure what's going on there. Keel, you're saying INEOS have other sports pay. I still don't really know what you're talking about in terms of who cares if INEOS make a streaming service? No offense. I really don't care. Save the Jungle, you're saying Glazers plus Ratcliffe equals JP Morgan back. There are so many questions I have. In fact, I'm going to have to ignore the chat for a little bit, ladies and gents. I apologize for anyone who sent a super chat there. There's a super chat there, actually. Let me read this one out. And then I'm moving on to this one. Surav, you're saying, to be okay with keeping the Glazers in any capacity is plain stupid. What was the point of the protest then? United should be Glazer free. Do the maths to understand the difference in bids. Qatar hasn't bid less. Surav, it's nice to know that you've got the inside information. You know exactly how much both bids are. That's really good. I've been going by what I've been reading and what I've been interpreting this whole time, just like you. And according to the Times yesterday, everything still points towards the INEOS bid being worth more. And that might be because of the structure of the deal, because he would only be buying out 4 siblings. So maybe the value of it when you add it all together would actually be... Oh, shit. I don't know that. I don't know. And when you're going there about to be keeping the Glazers on in any capacity is stupid. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I also need more information on it. I really do. Let me run through this Mike Keegan article. Then we can go down there and have a conversation around that. Jim Ratcliffe is closing in on a successful takeover of Manchester United. This is coming from Mike Keegan. So we've just read the Times there. This is Mike Keegan. So this is going to be coming from the Qatari perspective. Okay. We know full well that going back to it originally, the first news of a Qatari full takeover bid came from Mike Keegan. So he's basically been the leading voice for the Qatari side of things. So it'll be interesting to see what his perspective, and therefore the Qatari perspective is on this whole situation. But he's saying the same thing. Jim Ratcliffe is closing in on a successful takeover at Manchester United. The Manchester United takeover saga is nearing a conclusion, with Jim Ratcliffe still in the lead. A final decision on who will win the race for the Premier League Giants remains outstanding and is unlikely to be reached this weekend. So we won't get an answer this weekend. I didn't expect this. Imagine that. Decided to have a nice couple of hours off on Friday. I got the new Zelda game. I haven't bought a game in years, but I love Zelda. So I bought it, playing it, picked my phone up, boom. And here we are this morning. You're not allowed nights off. Rule number 1. It remains to be seen if Sheikh Jassim's group will lodge a final attempt to blow the competition out of the water. The Qatari party are far from conceding defeat and remain firmly in the game, it is understood. Talks are ongoing. Despite a deadline for final bids having passed, it appears as though there is room for further maneuver. Now, I think I want to know your opinion on that. Let me know what you think. Is this just hot air? Do you expect there to be a final, I don't know, a final hand from the Qataris? Do you think the Sheikh Jassim will come in with an 11th hour bid? You let me know what you think in the comments about that, because the Times are saying it could happen. Daily Mail and Mike Keegan are saying that it could happen. But do you think it will happen? As I said earlier, I didn't expect the price to be an issue for the Qataris. It was like the last thing I thought it was going to be an issue for. Yet here we are, and right towards the end, and we're hearing and saying that the Qataris need to increase their bid to win it. Like, if you can blow everyone out the water, there you go. Here's your opportunity. Blow. Because we know full well the Glazers are greedy. Of course, the Qataris are smart businessmen. They won't overpay for something just for the sake of buying it. And that's where we don't know where the line is. We don't know how. Well, we do know, actually, so far. It's not been enough. Let me see what you're saying down here. Queen B saying, why should they overpay? I know. Why should they overpay? That's what I mean. there's going to be a limit to how much they want to pay to how much they actually want Manchester United, because we are the crown jewel of football. United, Real Madrid, Barcelona. They're the biggest three clubs in the world. Still, we are part of that conversation. If they really want us, they will overpay. But that's what I mean. That's where we don't know how far it will go. What's more important to them, the business and the return, or the prestige? Where do they lean towards? At this moment in time, they've definitely lent towards the business side of things. That's why they haven't beaten INEOS. Let me see what you're saying down here. If Qatar want their bid to be accepted, says Jason, they're going to have to offer the $6 billion. Well, apparently that's what we're looking at. Of course, this could all be, it could be spin. It could be, this doesn't feel like spin around this anymore. All week from different, I explained at the start of the show, all week it's been gathering pace towards Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS. And then this emerged last night. So all the noise this week has been as far as INEOS is concerned, has been positive towards them in a takeover. And all we've ever heard is the Qataris are confident, the Qataris are confident, the Qataris are confident, the Qataris are confident. INEOS have outbid them. Let's see what goes on next. Glazers should meet the Qatari delegates and negotiate directly. Al-Mac, that's something that I couldn't be bothered to speak about. Not that I couldn't be bothered to speak about next week, but I didn't want to fuel the speculation anymore. Is that, I've been hearing that the Glazers have been, not cutting out the Rain Group, but feels like they've been doing some stuff directly over these last couple of weeks. And maybe that's been part of the delays. Don't know. Ian, how you doing, buddy? Saying if Qatar really want this, then they'll be in with a big bid. Yep, they will be. If the Qataris really want to buy Manchester United, then this week, the next 72 hours, maybe 96 hours, we are going to hear about an explosive, huge, big winning bid from the Qatari perspective. And they will become Manchester United's new owners because the Glazers are greedy. And if they can get more money elsewhere, they're going to go, sweet, there you go. That's what they're going to do. And you're saying, how you doing, buddy? I'll read a comment out while sitting on the hot tub. Can the Glazers net more money overall by remaining in the club and selling their shares later, speculating on future value growth? Yeah, I think they can, because we spoke about this previously when the stories came out saying the Glazers feel that Manchester United could be worth 10 billion in a few years' time. And some people laughed, but I absolutely think it can be worth. I genuinely do think we can be worth 10 billion in like 5-10 years' time. So if the Glazers were to hold on to their shares, they would make more money in the future. Yes, they would. However, that 10 billion valuation doesn't come around without investment, which they are unwilling and incapable of doing. So that they definitely want to have their cake and eat it. They want to make as much money as possible. They want that bigger valuation further down the line, but they're unwilling to put the money in to get there. So they have to find someone else to do that. And Jim Ratcliffe's found a way to keep them in. And that, let me read this comment out down here. And I want to ask you a question. Matthew, you're saying driver bidding war, all the same, Glazers, but good luck to United. Oh, yeah. Good luck to, that's on tomorrow, is it? I think the FA Cup final. Thank you very much, Super Chat, dude. Good luck to the ladies in the final tomorrow. Question. Call me devil's advocate for asking this question, but it's something I've been thinking about. If you look at, one sec, let me try and find this before I speak about this. Man United. There we go. I think that's it there. That's about right. So, let me pull this up here. Question. This might be a little bit boring to pull this up on screen, but I think it's important. Top 10 owners of Manchester United here. Okay? This is what I want to ask you. How does this sit with you? Because in my head, if it goes down the INEOS path, this is where we're headed. That's what I think anyway. You can see Lynn's all trained. This is top 10 owners of Manchester United PLC in terms of who owns United's shares on the public stock. who owns the Class A shares. Now, Lindsay Train Limited, they own 20% of Manchester United. Have you ever heard anything about Lindsay? Who are Lindsay Train? No one's heard a peep because they have no voting rights. So this is the question I want to ask you. Does anything change if all of a sudden... Oh, great. What's that? Thank you, CNN. 1 second there. Apparently you can't read the website without getting a pop-up these days. Lovely. Because if INEOS... I don't think INEOS would do that deal with the Glazers if they remained in any form of control. So would your opinion change of this whole Glazer situation if all of a sudden you just had Avram and Joel Glazer at the top there? They own 20% of Manchester United, but they have absolutely zero control, zero influence, and they're just a shadow in the background. And all control lies with INEOS, and all control lies with Ratcliffe. Ryan, you're saying if Jim wins, it stays the same, and this is what I mean. This is what I mean about I've got so many questions. I've got so many more questions about the structure of an INEOS deal than I do about the structure of a Qatari bid, because we know full well the Qatari bid is 100%, it's cash, it's full, they're gone. Whereas this Ratcliffe deal, if he buys 50% and they retain their 20%, how is that possible? It's not really possible in the current dual share structure. Paul, you're saying, why would the Glazers do this deal? Because non-voting shares are basically worthless. Paul, they're not worthless, though, are they? Because that's the thing. They are worth the money. The Glazers cannot expect to maintain any form of control if INEOS took over. They would effectively become silent shareholders who could make money off us if they cashed them in. This is where I've got so many questions, and I'd love more information. I just don't think we're ever going to get. People are down here saying that the Glazers would never do that. Their ego takes over. I know. I completely agree with you. But that's why I've got so many questions about the structure of this deal. Because if they retain any sort of control at Manchester United when it comes to an INEOS deal, I'm not sure I could support it. So many questions. Chris, you're saying, what is Lindsay Train? It's just look, it's an investment firm in America. They just own an absolute shit ton of United shares. Let me pull this picture up here again. Let's have a conversation. Leaf, you're saying, as we come to know the Glazers, will they enter into a deal that favors a club and the United fans? Well, no, they'll enter into a deal where they get the most money. Done. We know that. Ryan Clark saying, if they don't get any control, then why would they stay? You know exactly why they would stay, Ryan. Because they know that if they cash in now, in their heads, they're going, well, we could cash in now and get X amount, or we could cash out in 5 years and get another 65%. Why wouldn't we just hang around? Why would we take our money out when you could make more money on that money? Because it's mad. Like, how much money do you need? Seriously, they are going to be so rich by the end of selling Manchester United. But no, they'd rather not spend that money, and then in 5 years' time, that money be worth more money. Man, the greed, man. The rich get richer and the greedy get greedier. Paul, you're saying, true, Sam, there's no way they would be in control. I don't see, Paul, I think that, but I don't know that. Stephen, you're saying, I think Sam is a secret Jim supporter. There's no secrets about it. Go back and watch my pros and cons video. I'm not explaining it again. Tom, you're saying, how does the investment stadium work? Will the Glazers have to chip in their 20% of it, or INEOS paying the lot? I don't think, I don't think, Tom, thank you very much, Super Chat. I know the Glazers will not put one penny of their own money into our football club at all, ever. They never have, and they've been in control for 18 years. The Glazers will never invest. They will just sit there greedily in the background watching INEOS. I know if it's a Qataris, they can just watch from afar because they'd have absolutely no association with the club. Watching INEOS invest. Watch the value of Manchester United go up and up and up, and therefore the value of their shares increase and increase and increase. Now, of course, the thing we've heard is that if INEOS did take over, there would be an obligation, what they call put and call backs, something like that. Like it must be a structure in like merger. It must be a clause that happens in merger and acquisitions. It's a hard word to say. That happens, but that's still ifs and buts. I think I want guarantees and obligations. What else are you saying down here? Vilal, you're saying Ratcliffe is never going to take control with the Glazers sitting in the background. Well, if the Glazers are sitting in the background with absolutely zero control, and they're effectively just shareholders, that's the way I think it will be structured if INEOS were successful. That the dual class structure would either be abolished, or he would just take, because we know full well that Class B shares can't be sold in the public market. To sell them on the public market, you have to convert them to Class A shares, and they can't be given to anybody apart from other Glazer family members, unless you're an affiliate in question marks, because that's what's written into the small print. Would he come in as an affiliate? I don't know. Would that dual share? Because the only reason that dual share structure exists in Manchester United was a way for the Glazers to make money by putting the club on the public stock exchange without losing control of the club. That's the only reason that dual share structure exists. So INEOS wouldn't really need it. We don't need that. Get rid of that. We've got our ownership point. We own, he would take 50%. He would buy 51% of the club, so he would have the majority and the ownership. And then just completely abolish the share structure and just make all the other shares just normal stocks. Like you right now going and putting 10 grand into Tesla. In fact, you right now going and putting, if you were to go, which you couldn't, if you were to go and invest 10 billion into Tesla, does that all of a sudden mean that you've got a bit of control over? I mean, you probably would at that point. You don't really, though, because you're just somebody who's bought shares in Tesla on the public stock exchange. You can't tell Elon Musk what to do. Good luck with that anyway, Elon Musk. I loved Elon Musk. What he's done with Twitter, it's just weird. Right, more comments. And you're saying, I just can't get my head past the fact that if Jim Ratcliffe cannot afford a straight buyout, that bodes ill for future investment. Yes, I've got fucking huge concerns about that. You know how much the debt and getting rid of the debt was such a core part for me. Was such a core part of why I wanted new owners, why I wanted the Glazers gone. And I don't like the idea of the debt being associated on the club with INEOS. Man, trust me, I've got so many questions and concerns about INEOS. And I have so many questions and concerns about a potential Qatari takeover. And anybody who's just saying, this one is easily, you're just fibbing. Because there isn't, I don't think. That's my personal take on it. I'm looking at both of these and I'm seeing there's so many questions to ask about all of this. Honestly, there really, really is. Daz, you're making a great point there. There's a game going on today. There is a fucking game going on today. And I'd love to be able to speak about it. David is saying, funny, Sam, is that all your worries about Ratcliffe goes away if Jassim Jake takes over. Yeah, and then I would have other concerns, which I've already laid out, and I'm not getting into a debate about it again this morning. I really am not. All I want to talk about is this. All I want to talk about is Man United's game against Wolves at 3 p.m. We're in the top 4 hunt. We've got control over it. Varane is back. Rashford's injured. What's going to happen? But instead, we've got to have a huge... No, it's not an argument. It's a debate. I like it. I like a debate. It's reached that point now. Everyone's at the end of their tether, aren't they? Either way, everyone's at the end of their tether. And we all just want the Glazers gone. I don't know what's coming up next. I really, really don't. I'll be honest, all right? The Times, we go back up here to the main headline of the show. Jim Ratcliffe's closing in on that takeover. Right? 1 second here. I'm pushing propaganda now. Oh, man. It's crazy. I tell you what, I'm wrapping this up for today. We've got a special extra show in. I enjoyed the conversation to a certain degree. I enjoy that everyone's got their opinions. And if you can form your opinion into a cohesive conversation, then you're welcome in the community, in the chats, and the comments. But if you want to start pointing at people, throwing, I don't know, just insults, then yeah, don't come back. You're not welcome as part of the community because I can't be asked for that. I really can't be asked for that. Hey, I can't wait until this is over. I can't wait until there's a preferred bidder. And then we can, instead of arguing about which shit situation do we want, we can then at least focus on one of them and actually start moving forward. But United, please win today. All right? 3-0 is my prediction. Probably going to be wrong. But I'll be back after the game with the match reaction.